Okay, everyone. So, welcome back to Ask the King. This is episode 50, the big anniversary episode for March 26, 2015. If you didn't see part 1 yet, I strongly recommend you go back and check it out. We had some really great questions answered in that part, but let's move on because we've got many, many more to get to. So our next question here on the show is from Jamar. And Jamar asks the following. He says, "Hey Phil, I'm not sure if you've been following the WWE as of late, but if I understand, it's been pretty horrible. In case you didn't know, The Undertaker has been scheduled to wrestle at WrestleMania 31. Don't get me wrong, I love The Undertaker, and I feel he's one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. But the man's 50 years old now, and he's slowing down. I believe the WWE needs to let him finally retire and induct him into the Hall of Fame where he very well deserves to be, instead of making him strain his body in a pointless match due to the fact that the streak has ended and he has nothing else to wrestle for now anyway. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think The Undertaker's choice was to be at WrestleMania, or do you think the WWE are kind of making him wrestle? Thanks, and keep up the good work." Well, here's the bottom line, and a lot of people have asked me about this, and I really haven't had a chance to publicly talk about it because, quite honestly, I haven't had a podcast, right? I haven't had time to do Hate Live, and therefore I haven't had time to talk about this, and I haven't been doing, Smart Guys for almost a year now, so understandably, people don't know my thoughts about wrestling. I haven't watched wrestling in 3 weeks. I think, honestly, and this is my honest opinion, following the cards, the little bit of wrestling that I've watched, this is probably the worst build-up to a WrestleMania, and quite possibly one of the worst WrestleMania cards ever. Alright? Terrible. No one wants to see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. No one wants to see John Cena wrestle anyone. No one wants to see Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, and a bunch of other great talent in a completely pointless intercontinental match with a bunch of dudes who are going to all break their bodies for absolutely no gain whatsoever. This WrestleMania is fucking shit. And the fact that they're bringing back The Undertaker, who hasn't even been on TV, but he just agreed to wrestle Bray Wyatt of all people, just to have The Undertaker at WrestleMania, it's shameful, it's a waste of fucking time, and they're absolutely right. The Undertaker streak was broken last year. The big attraction of The Undertaker was that he had an undefeated streak at WrestleMania. It ended last year. So who gives a fuck? I don't care if The Undertaker wins or loses against Bray Wyatt, right? I don't care if Bray Wyatt wins or loses, because Undertaker already lost, so he's known as like a defeated or broken hero. Him winning or losing doesn't matter. So literally, all is pointless. The Sting versus Triple H? Sure, I like to see Sting. I don't want to see him wrestle fucking Triple H. There's nothing going on at this WrestleMania at one iota that, number one, is going to build anyone, that, number two, is worth anything to the company, or that I would want to see as an intelligent fan of wrestling. So, I hate to say it, but this is probably the WrestleMania that if I watch it, I'll probably hate it. And I'm more interested to see what happens after WrestleMania, where traditionally WWE tries new things and new angles versus the WrestleMania itself. I even decided this week, to skip doing WrestleMania Sims. Now, what the hell? That's unprecedented, right? I've always, every year, since I started playing the WWE games for YouTube, I've done simulations of WrestleMania. I'm not doing it this year. You know what I mean? I'm not doing it this year, simply because there's no reason to do it anymore. The card's terrible. The game doesn't have enough created wrestlers to begin with, created spots for me to do a fun, Rumble match. I'm just saying, forget it. I'm so not in tune with wrestling right now, and so disgusted with what's going on. I would much rather focus on other stuff like Bloodborne and Minecraft and all the other stuff I'm doing. I'd rather do that and just keep the wrestling out of my mind until there's something going on in pro wrestling that I feel is worthy of my time and that is going to make me feel good. Because if I get the feeling that if I start watching WrestleMania and watching the shows, I'm going to be so frustrated, so fucking frustrated, that I'm just going to rip my hair out of my fucking head. Okay? So, right now, I'm hating wrestling. I think, yes, The Undertaker being at WrestleMania is a waste of time. Yes, he's too old to wrestle, and he should be allowed to just relax. He's probably only doing it for a payday, and because Vince begged him to do it again. The card's terrible. I hate WrestleMania. I hate wrestling right now, and I'm really turned off to it. What else can I say? You know what I mean? What else can I fucking say? It's terrible. It's bad shit. Okay. Next question. This one is actually from Wanglord, and he says, Phil, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? You've often talked about opening up your own business, but from an outside perspective, that seems to be pretty unrealistic right now, given your drop in income over the last year or two. Assuming that views stay at their current level, even with the increased focus on editing and the likes, do you think that you'll reach a point where you're ready to close the book on being a full-time gamer chapter of your life? I'm asking this because there seems to be increased interest in your vlogging rather than your gameplay, a trend that I myself am a part of. Could the vlogs that you're making replace the gaming videos as the centerpiece of your content? Perhaps you could use some of your newfound interest in editing to create even better vlogging videos. Well, see, and that's a valid point, and here's the thing, guys, is ultimately when I started this whole thing, right, remember back in 2008, 2009, 2010, before I even started making money, doing this thing on YouTube, I actually very much enjoyed doing not only the gameplay, but also doing reviews that had the gameplay integrated into them. And remember when my reviews at one point were way more creative? There was a skit in my very first review ever. I had a skit in it and stuff like that. And remember the Project 7 original series? It was very bootleg and very, B, C, D level quality, but people loved it because of its campiness. That was the kind of stuff where I wanted to balance, say, vlogging and editing and that with gameplay. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was I lost my job. Come 2011, 2012, I partnered with Machinima, and when I was actually putting time and effort into video editing, people weren't turning out. They were basically saying, we want to see you play more games. Why aren't you playing this game? Why aren't you playing that game? Play this game, play that game. And it literally, what my business became was me playing every major game. And I played the shit out of everything, and I'll be honest, I got a ton of views, and I made a bunch of money those couple of years when I was like white hot on YouTube. And then it started to a downturn because people were saying you're getting stale, you're just doing the same things over and over and over. And I did then try to branch out, and I said, well, I'm not good at video editing, I'm not good at filmmaking, but I'll find someone who is, and we made the reboot of Project 7, but then that ended because the people who I found didn't want to continue doing it anymore. And since then, it's kind of been like, okay, well, let's face it, the bottom line is that I'm good at entertaining people in a gaming atmosphere. However, what has happened, this is absolutely true, Wanglord's point is true. I'd say probably since I moved from Connecticut to Washington, for whatever reason, there seemed to be an increase of interest in my vlogs. In particular, now that I've started putting video content of the games into my vlogs, and they're more highly edited and more work is put into them, I'm actually using the direct capture of my audio in my own vlogging, people seem to like it a lot more. Now, ultimately, not every video is going to take off. There's some that I do if I'm doing a DLC, or like I just did a review of Resident Evil Revelations 2. Did it get tons of views? No. But that was like an episodic game. I already done a first thoughts video. But then when there's a big game, right, like The Order 1886 or Evolve, people loved my reviews on those games. So that's cool. And ultimately what I would like to do, it is true, I would like to branch out and continue to do creative vlogging for you guys if it's not just game reviews or my first thoughts on a subject if it relates to gaming or something like that. I would like to do vlogging on other stuff. It would be cool if I could do vlogging on all kinds of stuff. This Friday in particular, tomorrow, I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con, which is right, half an hour away in downtown Seattle, and I'm going to be vlogging, and it'd be cool if people would check out the vlogs. I love vlogging. It's fun. It's creative, and I get to talk. Right now, my talking to you is incredibly fun, and not to say that, do I not enjoy playing games anymore? Absolutely not. I love that too, but I like the variety of having the two sides of the coin. However, it has to be said, two critical things, all right? Two critical things. Number one, my vlogging is on a separate channel called the King of Hate Vlogs. This channel does not have the lucrative contract that I have on my gaming channel, DSP Gaming, because it doesn't have the views or attention or any of that DSP Gaming has. And therefore, when I make videos for the King of Hate Vlogs, they don't make a lot of money. I want you guys to understand that. Even though I'm putting out vlogs, and wow, Phil put out 3 vlogs this week that each hit 10,000 views. That's amazing. I didn't make a lot of money. In fact, I only make a couple $100, if that, on my vlogging channel. Compare that to DSP Gaming, which is my lifeblood, and that's what's paying all my bills. You know what I mean? So for me, the vlogging is cool. It's creative. It's something that I like that it's expanding, but that's going to be a process that's going to take a long time. I'm going to need to make hundreds of thousands of views on videos to even start making a significant amount of money on anything that I do on the vlogging channel. And I hope people understand that people have said, please, Phil, take the time out to do this highly edited review. And I say, okay, I'll do it, but that's going to take away a whole gameplay stream where those videos would have gotten thousands of views and I would have made some good money on, but I'm going to use it to just make this edited video. And it's from a financial standpoint, it's frustrating because I like doing them equally, but I can't, you know what I mean? I like doing them equally, but I can't because, quite honestly, the gameplay is what pays my bills. All right? So, Wang Lord kind of hit it on the head. Eventually, would I like to talk about more subjects? Could I do a gameplay news? Could I just do a general news show where I talk vlogging style about that stuff? Sure, but 10,000 views per video doesn't pay the bills. You know what I mean? So I have to, from a business perspective, think about that stuff too. And I have to think about what makes sense for a business. I have to keep doing the gameplay because that's the lifeblood, but as long as I do take time to refocus and expand and focus on things like vlogging, yeah, this is a possibility that could eventually become a greater focus. Now, the good news is that because I did start Patreon will be a supportive kind of income for me where maybe I don't have to worry so much about always constantly playing gameplay. And I'll be quite honest with you guys, because Patreon was successful in the month of February, that pushed me to do more edited videos, to do more reviews and more stuff in the month of March. So if you've been watching that content on the vlogging channel and you like it, that's a direct result of success in February. So I know I talk about this a lot. If you pledge to Patreon, you're going to help me to do more of that branching out style of video versus me just doing gameplay. You know what I mean? So that's just being me straight up honest about everything. And some people will, of course, get offended that I talked about views and money, but that's what the question was basically about, okay? Ultimately, if more people spread the word about my reviews, my videos on the vlogging channel, and the vlogging channel became incredibly popular, like, let's face it, think about someone who that's primarily what they do. Angry Joe, right? Primarily does game reviews, edited videos, vlogging style videos, and he gets hundreds of thousands of views on each video. If I could do that, fine. And then I could cut back on the gameplay and I could focus on that. But we're definitely not there. I was the guy known for gameplay with a side of edited videos, and now we have to kind of find a way to build that up. Spreading the word about those videos helps, and pledging to Patreon helps. Okay? All right, next question from Cody Carls. He says, before you became good at speaking, was there ever a time when you struggled to speak in front of a large crowd or do a presentation in grade school? If not, growing up, were there any kids that had trouble doing so? And what can you say to people who have that problem? Damn, yeah. I actually did have lots of problems in grammar school in particular. I call it grammar school because that's what they called it where I went, but it's actually called, I guess, grade school, elementary school. I actually remember the very first public speech I did, I practiced the living shit out of it, okay? Like, what I would do, I wrote it, I would read it and try to memorize it, then I would read it in front of my dad, then I would read it in front of my mom, then I would do it in front of both of them. Then I would do it in front of my cousin. And it literally came to the point where I was so used to saying what I was going to say publicly that when I finally went to do it in front of people, it didn't feel out of the ordinary because I said, I already read this in front of a shitload of people, right? So it's not out of the ordinary for me to be doing this public speaking. And, you know what I mean? Like, I just did it to so much repetition that I was like, I'm confident that I'm going to get it right. Now, later on, what ended up happening, completely not having to do with school or anything, was that later on, after school kind of ended, or that part of my life ended, Street Fighter happened. And I love Street Fighter so much that just going to video arcades and playing Street Fighter on a cabinet in front of people was another way to have a public face. What I'm playing right now, people are watching. They're waiting because they want to play, and they're trying to learn your strategies, and they're going to comment on your gameplay. And that kind of gave me a really thick skin in regards to being able to do things publicly. And then going to tournaments, and now you're playing at a tournament level, and eventually the tournament was on a big screen, and everyone's watching you play, and things were being recorded. Now, of course, everything is public with YouTube and whatever. That's why I was able to jump into it and not really give a shit, because I was so used to playing on a public stage or being public speaking and or doing things in public with people seeing it that it didn't really affect me. I know there's people that, like, they try to do YouTube videos and they're terrified and they get all nervous, and then the videos, they don't feel that they're good. I've never had that problem. That confidence I've had because of my history of doing it in school, then doing it in Street Fighter, subsequently later on in my job when I had that office job, I was leading projects and doing things, and I have a pretty good, strong ability to do that because I practiced it so much when I was a little kid, I feel. I really feel that's why. So that's really what happened with me. I can't really give any advice besides practice, practice, practice. And some people, I guess, will have the nerve for it, and there might be some that don't. I don't know. I just happened to have the nerve for it. And eventually, like I said, going out and doing Street Fighter gave me more of a nerve for it. So hopefully, at least, that's my experience. That'll help out some people. The next question is from Amokoru. And it says, what do you think about games such as Destiny that are massively hyped, launching to enormous criticism, albeit deserved, but then games like Bloodborne launch with the same issues and get nothing but positive feedback and applause? What I mean by that when I say it is lack of any real story at all in the game, no real character development in the game. Do you think it's a double standard in modern gaming? That is quite an interesting question. I don't think anyone thought that people were going to be comparing Destiny to Bloodborne, alright? Okay. But here's the thing, and here's where I really feel there's the difference between the two games. Yes, at the core, if you want to look at the core level, both games have repetitive gameplay. Both games have a ton of repetitive gameplay, and both games, on the surface, have kind of a really poor story, not a lot of character development. It's more like gameplay for gameplay's sake, alright? I am 100% willing to agree on that level that's basically how it goes. Okay? Now, let's take it a step further. Destiny, for years, was touted as this game that was using millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars being absorbed into this game, one of the most expensive games ever made, from Bungie, the guys who made Halo, so you know this new project will be original and fun. It's going to have MMO aspects, it's going to have all this. We had all these promises about how great the game was going to be. The fucking advertisement campaign said it's not a game, it's an experience. That's what the fucking advertisement campaign for Destiny said. So they overpromised a shit ton of stuff. When the game came out, we're like, the story's not as good as Halo. There's not as many enemies as Halo. It's not as good as Halo. And Halo was your last major hit. You made a game that's inferior to your last game, but you spent tons more money on it. You advertised the fuck out of it, and the game sucks. So, of course, a lot of people didn't think it sucked because they bought into that repetitive gameplay, playing with your friends, grinding for hours and hours to get the best loot. That was like the aspect of the game that really caught on for some people. But for the common gamer, they said, this game's fucking shit. And you're going to say, okay, yeah, okay, it didn't have a great story or whatever. Okay. Now look at Bloodborne. The game didn't overpromise, right? Yeah, there's hype, but did the game developer say it's the best fucking game ever made? Not really. It has tons of content. Now, of course, most people are just scraping the surface. We don't know how much content truly the game has yet. We have to play it ourselves. Undoubtedly, it's probably going to have tons of content like the other Dark Souls games. Already, we've seen graphical improvements from the last game. Already, we've seen control improvements from the last game. That you know that if you know from history, track record, the Dark Souls games have an insanely wide variety of enemies, wide variety of locations. Yes, there will be variety in the gameplay as you find new weapons and new items and things you unlock during the course of the game. Is there a story? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is there a mainstream story that's blatantly explained to you? No. If you look and you read the descriptions of the items and you actually look into the lore of the game, is there a story? Yes. And honestly, yeah, it's better. The story of the Dark Souls games are actually better than the story of Destiny, right? The studio that made Bloodborne, okay, made the Dark Souls games. So yes, there is anticipation that this game is going to be as good, if not better, than their previous games. So far, from all indications, people are saying, yeah, Bloodborne is kind of like Dark Souls, but it seems to be better. You know what I mean? So I can't, honestly, can I answer this question right now? No. The reason I can't answer the question fully is because I didn't beat Bloodborne. I haven't seen all the content of the game. I've only played it 2 days right now. It's a little early to be making a judgment. But just on the surface, okay, Bloodborne hasn't overpromised and underdelivered. For most people who are playing the game, they're satisfied with the experience they're getting. They're feeling there were definitive improvements over the previous Dark Souls games. We weren't told it was the best game ever made. There wasn't a $1 zillion advertisement campaign telling us it's more than a fucking game. So, yeah, is there hype and anticipation? Yes, but is it in scale with what you can expect versus what they did with Destiny, which was promised the world and delivered a turd? That might be the difference, okay? Again, I won't fully answer that question until I finish Bloodborne. Maybe you want to ask me that again next month, okay? All right, next question. Excuse me. This one's from Traditional Games. This is a good one. He says, "Hey Phil, what are your thoughts on Nintendo's new console announcement? No real details have been revealed besides the codename NX. But Iwata," now Iwata is the head of Nintendo for those of you who don't know, "is already making really stupid comments. He claims the console will have a new concept which will change gamers' lives." Gee, what did I just say about over-promising and under-delivering, right? It seems they still haven't learned that it seems that Nintendo still hasn't learned and are going to continue to just make gimmicks. They already did motion controls with the Wii, they did a touchscreen with the Wii U, and it was incredibly stupid, and it changed and added really nothing to the overall gaming experience. What do you think about their next innovation? What do you think it will be? He says that if you expand on existing hardware, it just becomes dull. Which, does that mean that their next console is again going to be inferior to all the other consoles that the industry released? I'm personally furious at Iwata. He knows Nintendo has been losing money, but refuses to listen or fix the problems. I think he must be the most stubborn and pretentious guy in game development industry right now. He literally looks down at the rest of the industry, where gaming is headed, and thinks that Nintendo is the only company that has innovations, yet all they do are dumb gimmicks and simple games with little artistic or production values. What do you think about the future of Nintendo? Holy shit. What a statement that Traditional Games made right there, right? So the bottom line is this. Yes, the big news this week was that Nintendo has announced there's a new console. All they've said was the name, NX, which obviously means next. Dude, it's like we don't know what they're going for. At least I could say this. It makes more sense than Wii or Wii U, because none of those make any fucking sense, okay? So obviously they're saying this is it's the next generation, and what can we say about Nintendo? Nintendo is hit or miss. Nintendo was at the height of gaming in the 80s and 90s, kind of lost their way in the late 90s, plummeted in the 2000s, got their way back in the late 2000s with this gimmick of motion controls with the Wii, and thought that they were infallible, but then the Wii stopped selling, and they said, oh, let's just do another console called Wii U that really has no innovations besides a touchscreen, and it flopped. Now the Wii U is slowly starting to come back, because finally, after some 3 to 4 years of this thing being out, Nintendo is releasing enough games of just first party, because no one else will fucking make games for the thing, that are supporting it to be a console worth buying. So finally, they're just starting to make headway. Oh, guess what? Announce a new console. And it's like, you gotta be joking. And they're like, okay, and the new console will have new innovations that'll change the way gaming Dear Nintendo, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The gamer today doesn't care about your bullshit. We don't care about your gimmicks. We don't care if you put a fucking blood pressure sensor on my arm, I'll fucking shove a dildo up my ass, virtual reality around my head, and fucking things flailing in front of me. I don't care if my fucking Wii U jumps off the shelf and blows me. If you make quality games, and you make them at the same standard as the other people in the industry, you will be successful. I don't know how much more simply I can put it. You can have flash-in-the-pan success with gimmicks. But if anything, your own company's track record has proven that some gimmicks work and some don't, right? What was your most successful period overall ever? The NES and Super NES era. What did you focus on? The best graphics in the industry and the best games in the industry. When you had the best technology paired with the best games, you were number one. Then somewhere along the line, you said, we want to just change our business model. We're going to have weird controllers. We're going to have a console that looks like a fucking play school toy box. We're going to waggle our arms around like fucking assholes and say, we want to play. No, I do want to play. But I want to play quality games on a quality console with a company that takes me seriously as a consumer. Not that fucking copyright strikes people's videos on YouTube because you're bleeding money, so you're trying to steal money from people who advertise your games for free and make money off of it. I don't want to support a company that thinks I'm so stupid that because you made this fucking piece of shit, this giant stupid fucking screen, right? That I'm going to be fooled and say, duh, this is better than playing on a controller because it's touchscreen. Duh. Like literally, Nintendo panders to the lowest common denominator of gamer, the person who's not the hardcore audience, the people who didn't put the money in their pockets in the 90s and wants to keep fucking supporting them. They keep pandering to these other people who don't fucking play games. You know who the Wii appealed to? The same fucking people who dropped the Wii to play Angry Birds on their fucking cell phone when that was new. That's how dumb they are. It just makes no fucking sense at all what this idiotic company is doing. And Iwata, what the fuck? How could anyone have faith in him? Anyone? His solution to falling sales numbers, his solution to the fact that the Wii U was a flop, let's adapt Nintendo games for smartphones. Wow. If I've ever heard a no-thought invoking kind of fucking solution ever, just port our games to work on smartphones. Amazing. You know what? Our dryer, we manufacture washers and dryers, but our business is failing. So let's just make it so that the motors we put in washers and dryers can also run lawnmowers. I'm a fucking genius. I'm a genius. Take something that already works, but it's not selling, and put it into something else. How could you have any kind of a confidence between this jackass? Seriously, at this point, I'm pissed. I've told you, I love Nintendo. I grew up with Nintendo, but people don't care anymore. Even people, the biggest proponents of Nintendo, Zach Scott Games, #1 guy in the world for making videos for Nintendo, fucking pissed at Nintendo because he can't make money making Nintendo videos anymore because they fucked him on YouTube. What the fuck is wrong with this company? Like, how cocky, how insanely elitist, stupid, egomaniac, dumb fuck can you be to not understand your customer base at this point? People have money. They have money. They want to spend, and they're so stupid. I'm getting a headache now. So the bottom line is, no, I think Iwata is basically a bad leader at this point. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. He's had no actual creative ideas that have done anything for his company. He's publicly admitted that he's failed his company, and he's done nothing in the past 2 years where he promised he would turn the company around to get any kind of consumer confidence in the company. He's going to make a new console that probably won't be as good as the PS4, right? Or the Xbox One. It'll probably have another stupid gimmick, and we're all supposed to just accept it because it's first-party Nintendo, right? The one fucking thing that Nintendo did right was steal the idea from Skylanders to make stupid amiibo figures. People asked me about this last fall when the amiibos were being released. Did I think it would be successful? And I said yes, because people are stupid. They will buy collectibles and things just for the sake of because it's valuable and or because everyone wants it. Is the iPhone incredibly popular because of all the features? Well, let's face it, there's other phones that have all the same features of the iPhone, but the iPhone's #1 because, it's the must-have item. And when there's a new upgrade to the iPhone, people line up around the block of the Apple store to fucking buy the new iPhone. Just because it's the hot new thing, right? It's the gimmick, it's the meme, it's the fad. Nintendo jumped on someone else's fucking fad and made a ton of money. And now, of course, amiibos are being scalped, amiibos are rare, so Nintendo's making money on someone else's fucking idea with no originality or anything to it. It literally copied someone else to try to make money up for the fact that they can't make something that people want. Now I'm supposed to have faith in them again because they sold little fucking plastic figures? Like, fuck this. I just don't get it anymore. I really don't. It's incredibly stupid. People want collectibles, and so they're going to throw... The company that literally disrespected you for the past 5 years as a gamer, now you're going to run out and buy amiibos. I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back and finish this up. We actually have the patron questions are coming next, and then we've got some Twitter and Facebook questions. So, final segment will be patrons, Twitter, Facebook, and we'll end the show. So, thanks, everyone. I'll be back with the conclusion of Ask the King. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back, and I'm going to calm the fuck down. All right.